Well, here we are, guys, going live. I'm just going to wait a little bit for the room to populate, get a few people in here before I start really talking about anything. Yeah, I really don't like talking to myself. Couple of people now in the live stream, I see. I'm just going to try and wait. Perhaps we'll get 4 or 5 people in at least before I start talking my gobbledygook. And it probably will be gobbledygook tonight because I've just managed to get back from the pub and I've been there for nearly 4 hours. So, chatting to another boater, Steve, tonight. Had a great time. I've been drinking Sarah, no, I don't know what the beer was called, but it was quite tasty anyway, and quite a lot of alcohol in it. 6% beer. Yeah. Sarah Hughes Ruby L is what I've been drinking. Steve, and I've forgotten his wife's name now, on a boat moored just down behind me tonight. Yeah, we had a few beers in there tonight, so welcome aboard, people. We had 4 people a moment ago, now we're down to 3. I guess you don't want to watch my live stream tonight. And people are sort of, oh, here we go. Yeah. Welcome, Mark. Yes, so tonight, I've been called everything over my lifetime, especially in the recent years. Conspiracy theorist, don't know what you're talking about. I've been called everything. So I thought it's time I come on here and started talking about things. Of where is everybody going to? I had 4, I'm now down to 2. Uh, you don't want to hear what I'm talking about? Well, okay. I'll talk to the audience I have, I guess. The 2 people are back to 4 again. Yeah, so what do I want to talk about tonight? The mad world we live in. I don't know how some of you think about what's going on in the world these days, but I know how I feel about what's going on in the world these days, and a lot of it really does upset me. I just think we're living in one of the most awful periods of my lifetime ever. I don't trust any government in the world. I think they're all lying to us. I watch what's being said from many a government around the world. I keep in touch with politics to a degree. I keep in touch with what's going on in the world, and most of it I don't agree with. You're right there, Mark. By the way, yeah, all the important people are here. Let me know who's in the live stream. Just type hello or whatever, so I know who I'm talking to. It'd be great. I know Mark's here, but yeah, it's just the world to me is crazy at the moment. Um, I tell you what, I noticed the other day, which is I came up with something a bit odd. Now, the British elections are going to be on the 4th of July, Americans' Independence Day, and the American elections are going to be on the 5th of November as the day when Guy Fawkes tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament. Is there some significance to that, or is it just me being a bit paranoid, perhaps? Do these things happen by chance, or are they planned? I don't know. I hold my hands up to that. I don't know. But why? Why would that be? Why would The British choose American Independence Day, and the US choose when Guy Fawkes tried to blow up the House of the Parliament. Well, I know the American one is pretty much set in concrete, but why did we choose Independence Day? I don't know. Yeah, I think, well, Timothy, I lived in America, as a lot of people know, for 15 years. So I've got a bit of both worlds in my knowledge. You know what I mean? I know what was going over there. By the way, if I'm a little bit sound a little bit tipsy, I don't even have a beer with me tonight. I was up at the pub with another boater, Steve, and yeah, I've had a couple already. I almost didn't come back because I did say 20 people. 20 people said yes, I would do a live stream. It's only been 16. So, but I thought, some great people out there. And most of the people that said yep are people that join the live stream regularly. So I thought, well, I've got to do it, haven't I? I've got to do the live stream. You know what I mean? All you regulars out there that watch my channel all the time and contribute in the chat all the time, I have to do it. Although I must admit, uh, yeah, I know it's the first Tuesday. I did know that, Mark. But it just, why did we decide to do it on Independence Day to make it? I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I've been called it many a time, but a lot of these things do come up for a reason. So anyway, this I had a list. No, I didn't have a list. I was going to make a list, and I went to the pub. I have a list of things in my head I want to talk about tonight, and I was going to write down, and I haven't. So let's think what we want to talk about. Well, one thing is, biggest thing I think that's going on in the world is immigration at the moment. I don't know how you feel about immigration. I know I find it a little bit worrying. Uh, we're a small country. Why are we letting over 1 million people a year come into our small country that have nothing to do with our values or our thoughts, and not vetted? We don't know where they come from. They're coming across in small boats across from France. They're throwing their passports and their phones in the English channels they come across. So when they arrive here, we don't even know who they are. That's a big problem to me. Um, it scares me. It scares me. Why are the Islamists in this country suddenly on our streets every Saturday? No, against Palestine. They're chanting they're for Palestine, but are they really? I really don't know that. It's all worrying. Hi, Steve. Happy birthday, by the way, Steve. I did post on Facebook, but happy birthday. And a nice glass of Butty Batch. I've had that. It's a dark beer, probably in a bottle. I've only ever seen it in a bottle. I've been drinking Sarah Hughes Ruby L at 6%. And I've had about 6 of them. Feeling good. Hi, Lee. Totally agree, Nick. By the way, I totally agree with you. I've been following a lot of things for years and years and years. It really came to a big thing back in 1920, 2020, I should say. I wasn't around in 1920. I may be old, but not that old. In 2020, when they decided they wanted to lock us all down for what, I couldn't see any reason for it. Basically, we had a flu epidemic, and basically no more people died in 2020 than died in a bad flu, gee whiz, flu, yeah. And actually, in fact, back in the 60s, when we had some bad flu years, more people died than they did in 1920. And the population was a lot smaller then. So, I'm talking about England here now. I'm not talking about the rest of the world. I called it a pandemic back in the time, and I still think it is. And I noticed today that Mr. Fauci, or whatever he wants to call himself, has been actually spouting out saying he knew it was all wrong, and it was that guy. I believe should go to jail, but that's my view. But you're more than welcome to differ. We are moored at Upton on 7 as both Digness river locks are closed at the moment. Yeah, well, I'm still at, I've been around this area for a while. I'm at Kidsgrove. I can't go. I'm going back south. I can't get through Stoke Locks at the moment. Stoke Locks are closed. They've had a problem with, I believe, with a seal getting out of alignment or moving or being dislodged or whatever. So they said it would take a week, and that was Monday. They started working on it. But originally they said 2 weeks. And they said it'd be a week. They'd get it done quicker. So I guess it's going to take 3 weeks. 2 weeks under 1 week. You know what? You know it work. I'm just messing around there, just joking around. But I've never seen them finish on time, hardly ever, when they say a week. I remember waiting at Minworth Locks when they said 7 weeks, and it was 12 weeks. So, things change all the time. But yeah, things I want to talk about. Yeah, there's a lot of things I probably shouldn't talk about, but I will. The more beers you have, the easier the tongue loosens up, isn't it? Yeah. The skies. I look at the skies, and you probably noticed me make a few comments in my videos sometimes about the fake clouds, the geoengineering, or the whatever you want to call it, cloud seeding. I believe the correct term for it is climate engineering. And you see a plane go over, and it leaves a vapor trail, which is a contrail, okay? And you see these contrails, which dissipate quite quickly, and they're around about 35,000 feet up. Then you see a plane go over, which is only probably 10,000-15,000 feet up, and it leaves a trail, which is not normal at that height. And then suddenly this trail starts making this huge cloud over the sky, and it blocks up out the sunlight. Apparently, that's natural. We know it's not. They lie to you. You can actually do some freedom of information on this, and one department will tell you, "Oh yeah, we're spraying because of trying to cool the planet down," and another one says, "No, it's just a contrail." So they even lie to each other. The different departments don't even agree on what they're telling you. We know they're doing it. Just stop doing it. We don't need it. The planet is not warming up. It's not going to burn. Gee whiz, that idiot, the WHO, what's his name, Tedros? We've gone from climate warming to climate burning, or whatever he said. Absolute moron. Yeah, he hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. I've done a lot of scientific research into this, and here's the crazy thing. The planet always warms up before CO2 levels rise. Not the other way around. CO2 levels do not cause the planet to warm up. Do your research on it. If you don't believe me, it's true. And we're going through a warm period at the moment. A lot of it's to do with the ocean currents and the way things, the sun is, the closest it is to the planet, and all these sort of things, and the solar flares going off. We're going through a warm period. It happens. I'm just sort of reading up a bit here. No, not opening the side of the night, Dan. I'm too drunk. Happened that Jew, yeah. Why was David Bellamy cancelled? Well, because he spoke the truth. So many people out there have been cancelled. I don't know if you ever watched Paul Burgess, my namesake. I'm Trevor Burgess, if you don't know. But he has been to do with climate and that sort of thing, and engineer and all that sort of thing for years and years and years. Go to his channel. I can't remember his name or his channel now. True Climate, something like that. Anyway, still the climate. He will explain everything in proper details why this is just such a big lie. Climate is a climate myth. I remember back in the 70s when they said, oh, by 2090 or 1990 rather, if we don't do something about climate change, the planet's going to burn up. Well, it never did. And then they said all the polar caps, the cap in the Southern Ocean is melting at such a great degree that the penguins won't have anywhere to go and nest, in the tiger seals and all this won't be able to feed on. They would be devastated. Funny enough, over the last 10 years, the ice cap in the Southern Ocean is being grown again. The other thing was polar bears are going to disappear. They're not going to be able to survive. Polar bears, over the last 10 years, the population has increased. So everything they throw at you is total BS. If I lose 1,000 subscribers tonight because people don't agree with what I got to say, I lose 1,000 subscribers tonight. But I've been bottling a lot of this up for a long time. I sort of put bits out there on my channel occasionally. Just check it out. Just check the facts. Don't believe MSN, mainstream media. They all lie. They're all being paid to lie. Just look through the pandemic, or what they call the pandemic, which I call a scandemic. All the mainstream media were paid millions of pounds from the governments, be it in the US or over here in the UK, to lie, to follow the narrative. Anything outside the narrative was cancelled. And same with all your things like Facebook and Twitter at the time. If you went one step outside their narrative, you was cancelled. I got cancelled at least 10 times on Facebook for just telling the truth. Exactly right. Climate change is natural. And this silly hockey stick they've tried to show now, they take out all the periods, the warm period, the medieval warm period. Back in Roman times, when the Romans were in England, back 2,000 years ago, when they were building Hadrian's Wall, I'm not quite sure it was to keep the Scots out or keep the English out of Scotland. Joking around there a bit. But they were growing grapes against Hadrian's Wall because it was so warm up there. You know, it's not warm at the moment, and actually, we need CO2 levels are actually have been at the lowest. About sorry, I'm coughing here. About 1880, I think we hit our lowest CO2 levels in the world, and we got that close. If they dropped by another 20 parts per million, the world might have died. We need CO2. CO2 is the gas of life. We need oxygen to breathe. Plants need CO2. Without plants, we can't live. You say, oh, we'll just eat meat. Well, yeah, okay. So what do the meat eaters eat? They eat plants, or some of them eat plants, and then meat eaters eat other meat eaters, or eat the plant eaters. So without plants, we can't survive. And that's the fact. What they don't tell you in the mainstream media that because CO2 levels are actually gone up slightly in the last few years, the last decade, they've gone up slightly from about 3.8 parts per million to 4, perhaps even 4.1 parts per million we're at now. The world's starting to green up, and plants are growing better and more vigorous. So we're actually improving the planet by higher CO2 levels, not destroying the planet. And CO2, by the way, it can be a greenhouse gas, but what happens is if you double the amount of CO2, the amount of greenhouse effect it has only goes up by about 1%, not 100%. It the biggest thing greenhouse gas we have in the planet is water vapor. Actually, clouds are the biggest thing. You get over the oceans, water rises up, and it blocks out the sunlight. You ever been on the beach and you're in the beautiful sunshine and a cloud comes over? The temperature drops by ridiculous amounts, doesn't it? You suddenly feel cold and you're shivering. It's got nothing to do with CO2. It's got to do with water vapor. Yeah, I know I'm definitely going to lose about 1,000 subscribers today, but I'm up for it tonight. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, uh, I can't read your name, but about polar bears. Yeah. They've been tracking polar bears since I was around in the 70s, and I'm pretty sure that is another BS answer because it doesn't fit the narrative. You know, they've been tracking all the polar bears for the last 50, 60 years that I know of. You know, I'm 65 years old, and when I was at college, they were tracking the polar bears. I know that because, I did studies on it. Uh, but it's just doesn't fit the narrative anymore. So then they say, oh, we'll track them all. So we just found more polar bears. Absolute BS. They knew every polar bear in the blooming Arctic for years and years and years. Total BS. So if you want to believe mainstream media, listen to it. If you want to believe what's actually happening in the world, check some independent surveys. There's plenty out there, and they all come up with the same thing. Mainstream media is a lie because they want you to be broke. You ever hear the claim from Klaus Schwab on the WF, the World Economic Forum? You'll own nothing and be happy. That's how they want you to be. Own nothing and be happy. Well, you'll never be happy if you own nothing, of course, but this is their aim. And everything that's going on at the moment. I've got nothing against solar panels. I want nothing against wind farms. It's just that they're not our future. They're not our future. If you put wind farms across, well, I'm in England, so I'm going to go with England. I know there's some bigger landscapes like Australia and America, where all over the country, basically, there's very, very little green spots left. Now they want to cover them with solar panels and wind farms. It just doesn't work, does it? It doesn't work. Doesn't matter how many solar panels you put up. If you're blocking out the clouds with your geoengineering, your solar farms are not going to work. And it doesn't matter how many wind turbines you put up. If the wind doesn't blow, they don't work. And they're talking about, oh, we'll build batteries. Do you know if you built a battery bank all the way around the coast of England, all the way the whole, actually the UK, I'm not talking about the coast of England, Scotland, and Wales, a big bank of batteries, 10 foot wide and 100 foot tall. Do you know how long that would last for? If they're lead acid batteries, that would give us about 5 days worth of power if the wind doesn't blow. And it would cost more money to build than the amount of money in the world. So it's never going to happen. We're never going to have battery backup, okay? It's not possible with the batteries available at this point in time. I'm not going to say it might not happen in 100 years' time, 10 years' time. Someone might be really clever and come up with a great idea. But at this moment in time, it's just not going to happen. It's not possible. We do not have the technology for it. If we totally get rid of all fossil fuels, most of us are going to die, because we won't be able to produce the food, and we won't be able to produce heating, lighting, and all the things we need to survive. So don't believe a word they put out there. It's all to make you broke. And why have we been charged? What, 25? I'm not, because I live on a boat, but people have been charged, what, 25% now surcharge on an electric bill for renewables because they're cheap. No, they're only cheap because they're subsidized. In fact, they're very, very expensive, and they don't last very long either. Wind turbines, 15 years probably. Solar panels, 10 years. They're not renewables. The cost of replacing the solar panels and the wind turbines don't make them renewables because they don't last forever. I'll just come back to the chat here quick. I still don't believe what you're saying there, by the way. They don't track them particularly any more than they ever did back in the day. They just say they do. New camera. Well, I think I've got my camera here somewhere. I do, look, there it is. It's a GoPro. It's what I'm using. I've changed a few. Well, let's take it apart. I'll show you about the camera. Get me a little bit less irated about what I'm talking about at the moment, because it does wind me up. I don't like being basically told I'm stupid by the media and people in government. We have one of the dumbest governments in the world these days. So it comes apart like that. My GoPro's in there. Put them back in. This pulls out. There we go. That's the cage which goes around it. It's got the microphone on, and you can see there where it goes into the camera body just below the battery. And that mic is good. The only problem with this mic is if you're not talking to the front of it, it has no pickup at the back. Whereas the GoPro itself, it has little pickups all the way around the camera, and it actually works quite well in any direction. The only problem is it has no wind muff on it. I'll just leave it here on the table. I've been experimenting with these. Now, this is the receiver, which plugs into here on the adapter. So I can plug that into there like so, into the adapter. And then I got a pair of the PAL microphones, which are rechargeable. They've got a little socket in there where you plug it in and charge them up. They don't last that long. That's the problem with them. Obviously, they're quite small, so the battery doesn't last that long. And they have a little light on them, an LED light, which shows you they're working. And if you don't keep an eye on your light and suddenly it stops working, you think you're recording and you're not. So they're good. But the only problem I've found with them so far is their pickup. Yeah, if I clip that onto my t-shirt like so, or whatever, I mean, I've got it clipped on there. Oh, I didn't clip it on, but I got it clipped on like that. Great. Everything I say picks up brilliantly. I can walk away. I actually can walk away. I've tried walking away 100 yards away, and it still works. It says it works up to about 150 yards. I haven't been that far, but about 100 yards. I'm never going to be that far away from the camera and the boat, so I don't need to work it any further. Because if I'm filming with the camera sat on the boat, you're not going to see me if I'm 150 yards away anyway. If I'm more than about, I don't know, a boat length away, you're not going to see me. So that works. But the only problem is, which I find, I don't know, a little bit frustrating, is it doesn't pick up. It sounds great. It doesn't pick up the sound of the engine. But if I'm not talking, it doesn't pick up the sound of anything. You don't hear the birds. You don't hear anything, which in certain circumstances is great. You're just there and you're just talking, and everything just want to hear me, but sometimes I think you want to hear a bit of the engine noise, the birds, what's going on around, and they're not brilliant for that because they're such short range. The only good thing was when I recorded when I was at the beer festival a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, there was music being played and you couldn't hear it, or it's just extremely faint in the background, which was great for that sort of circumstances. But I still haven't decided exactly. I've got to play around with it a bit more. I say I've been sat here at Kids Grove now for a long time, so I haven't done any recording now for 3 weeks, probably 3 weeks at least. I haven't done any recording, so I need to get back into it and practice again. But that's got to happen, and I shall probably move in the next couple of days. And I see the chats going up here, so I better have a quick read. Yes, they were in 2000, 369 parts per million, and now 427. 427 is still extremely low. We need more CO2. Uh, CO2 levels at one point in time were over 8,000 parts per million, and the world didn't burn up then. Check out when the dinosaurs were around and everything was big. Oxygen levels were 21% now, and oxygen levels were about 35% then. That's why animals were so big and all that. But CO2, that's why all the plants were so big. We had trees a million feet tall, and they all fell down and made coal, which is that's where all the CO2 went, by the way. All that went into all the plants, and when they fell down and all that, they went into the coal. So that's why the CO2 levels dropped dramatically, because it went into the fossils. Fossils at the time basically was coal, oil, and all that sort of thing. So all we're doing now is releasing those CO2, the CO2 that was buried billions of years ago. Yeah, I'd say that's a lie. I've had solar panels on my roof, and the half life of them is about 4 years. I know for a fact, and I know this from other boaters, if you get 10 years out of a solar panel, that is actually if you buy at the moment, if you bought 5 years ago a solar panel that said it was 1,000 watts, today you'll be lucky to get 400 watts out of it. That's how bad they were. They're getting better. I'm not saying they're not getting any better. They are getting better. But the manufacturers' claims are bullshit. And they've been bullshit, just like they've been bullshit on a car that says that it gets 70 miles to the gallon. Nobody can get 70 miles to the gallon. Most people get 50 miles to the gallon. Absolute total BS. And when they make these claims that they build a wind farm, it can produce, I don't know, say 100 gigabytes, or not gigabytes, 100 gigawatts of power over. They don't tell you over what period of time. And number one, they don't tell you the days they don't work, and they don't tell you the days when they still quote that power when they're being backed up by gas powered power stations. Because when your wind's not blowing, they're backed up by gas powered power stations. Just like when the sun's not shining, they're backed up by gas powered power stations. But they still claim that as what they're getting. So don't believe a word they're telling you in the mainstream media or whatever you read. Honestly, do your own research it properly, and actually get the true figures. Industrial panels are exactly the same technology. Well, if you have glass panels, you get storm damage. That's why I'd never recommend glass panels. Literally, then they may still be working, but I can guarantee you they're not producing the same power as they were 15 years ago. It's just like fluorescent light bulbs or LED light bulbs, I should say. When you first get them, the lumens you get off of one will be, I don't know, whatever it is. I just make the figures simple: 10 lumens. After 1,000 hours of usage, they're down to 5 lumens or whatever it is. I'm just giving examples there, but none of it is indefinite. I use solar panels on my boat, and I love my solar panels on my boat. It means I don't have to run the engine when I'm stationary this time of the year. You know, I can get all tonight. All the lighting I have in here tonight is all being produced by solar during today. They have their place. Don't get me wrong, but they're not the future. And anyone who thinks they're the future at this moment in time are wrong, and they don't know what they're talking about. Do the research. Well, yeah, the media is the biggest bunch of lying people we know. Definitely, Nick, you're definitely there. Yeah, you're totally right. Fossil fuels, actually, without fossil fuels, do you know what? I was actually reading a report the other day, and I haven't studied it fully yet, about if we hadn't started burning fossil fuels back in the 1800s, might not have been here today, because fossil fuels were taking that carbon captured out of the ground, which happened millions of years ago, and starting to release it back into the atmosphere. If we hadn't have done that, we might not be here today, because at the point in time, CO2 was dropping so fast, it got down to about 180 parts per million. And if it reached 150 parts per million, life on Earth would have died. So don't complain about CO2 levels. It's a myth that they're a problem. They do not cause climate warming. Absolute total nonsense. I've done I don't talk about things like this very often, but when I do, I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of research. I've checked out so many people, reputable scientists. Just these are people that have been cancelled, of course, because you don't fit the narrative, you get cancelled, and that's been going on now for a long time. Got to remember back through the pandemic, that idiot, whatever her name was, Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, was saying we own the science. What total BS is that? You can't own the science. The science is always moving. You've got to have when you're discussing anything that's scientific, there's always got to be talk about it, and new things come in. You can't say you own the science. That is absolutely ridiculous and stupid. And now, of course, we all know that the so-called jab in the arm is probably not the best thing you've ever taken in your life. It's probably killing more people. Well, it is killing more people than the flu ever killed. And that's what I'm going to call it, the flu. I'm just putting my camera back together again before the battery falls out. If I can slide this back in here. There we go. Definitely more people waking up. Hello, Willie. Oh, hope everything is okay. CO2, yeah, we need CO2. And anyone that says we don't, sorry, they're just following a narrative. They don't know what they're talking about. CO2 is the gas of life. We may not breathe it in, but we breathe it out. Trees, plants, not plankton, algae. Do you know there's more CO2 actually captured in the oceans than anywhere else, because the algae soaks up more CO2, but then it releases oxygen back out, which we need. Without CO2, there's no oxygen. It's that simple, really. But They try to come up with these narratives, which yeah, the climate is okay. You're totally right. There's nothing wrong with the climate. Temperatures go up, temperatures go down. If you actually look, you know, I saw a report. I'll tell you what made me really peeved off. Why I really wanted to do this video today, and what was going to what I'm saying. They just claimed we've had the warmest May in 120 years. Well, we've had probably the coldest May in well, at least the last few years. 4 years ago, 2020, during the lockdown, I was sat outside every evening in a t-shirt. We've had 75 to 80 degree weather here in the UK. I'm using Fahrenheit for a lot of you guys I know are in America watching me today, and most English people know what Fahrenheit is, which was actually between, if you want to talk centigrade or Celsius, I should say, 21 to about 26 degrees Celsius every day for from sort of the end of March and all the way through the summer. It just got warmer and warmer and warmer. Absolutely. And they're trying to tell me this year has been warmer than that year. I've been wearing blooming coats. I just got back in from the pub wearing a coat tonight at 7 o'clock. Yeah, it's absolute total BS. And why did suddenly we go to showing as soon as we get to like 21 degrees Celsius, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, the weather maps, and they this real dark, almost red black color. They're trying to frighten us, making out these stupid colors. Where 10 years ago, that would have been sort of a dark orange. Now it's turned to this almost black red. They're trying to make out it's that much hotter. It's not. It's exactly the same temperature they're recording. You actually put one weather map up from 10 years ago or 20 years ago to today, exactly the same temperatures, and the colouring is totally different. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's all scaremongering. They want the money out of your pocket. They want to make the rich richer and us poor poorer. Yeah, it's just getting crazier and crazier. Yeah. I saw that, Willie. There was a reporter talking about it, and she couldn't stop laughing as she was reporting it. Obviously, she's paid to say it, and they're telling me this is the warmest year in 120 years, and she's chuckling as she's saying it. Yeah, obviously knew it was a lie, but she's paid to say it, so she said it. Yeah, yeah, it's just the world is going mad. As I say, title of this video tonight, the crazy world we live in. It's not just climate change, you know what I mean? Or the claim about climate change. It's everything, isn't it? You know, they don't want you to drive anymore. They're trying to literally take your ability to drive your cars away. I got a weepy eye. Sorry, guys. Um, they want to take your cars away because of climate change. They don't want you to fly anymore because of climate change. But okay, but for Bill Gates and all these what quote unquote elites, millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires, or whatever they are, they're fine flying around. They can fly all they want in private jets. But we put 500 people into a jumbo jet and fly, and our carbon emissions per person in that jumbo jet is minuscule. But they're flying, well, they're private jet. They got a pilot and co-pilot and probably somebody else on the plane or whatever, serving them a beer, or probably a gin and tonic or a scotch or whatever, bourbon. And 4 people on a jet, that's okay. And did you notice when they actually came to actually saying about flights, restricting people on flights, private jets weren't included. Just saying, when they've been talking about restricting the number of flights people can take to one in 3 years. Private jets weren't included. Yeah. Heat emergencies, yeah. They're just fear mongering. Total fear mongering. Yes, we always around the world. There's always hot spots. Always, always has been. You know, you go down. Um, down into oh, she was Las Vegas, around the desert around Las Vegas. It's bloody hot. Go to the Sahara Desert. It's bloody hot. Come to England, it's flipping freezing. Okay, we haven't really had a decent warm period yet this year, and we're in June. We're in June, and I don't think we've got above about 72, 73, perhaps 74 this year in the UK. By this time, most years we've had the odd 80-degree day. This year, no, it's cold, and they're claiming it's the warmest May on record. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I've got going tonight. I've had a few beers, so I'm flowing out all what I think about sometimes. Yeah, of course, Arizona. Um, if you're in Arizona, well, like you are obviously, you don't expect it to be cold, do you? Arizona is one of the warmest places in the US. Why do people go there? Yeah, but is that unusual, Willie? 98 degrees in Arizona, unusual this time of the year? I wouldn't have thought so. I wouldn't have thought so at all. I have been to Arizona, been there once, a long, 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 long time ago when I was in the US. It was hot. I don't know what the temperatures was. I can't remember. I wasn't even looking at the temperature. I'll tell you what, though, it was very dry as well. So it's not like in Illinois when it's 90 odd degrees and you just dripping because the humidity is ridiculous and it kills you. In Arizona, it's a dry heat. Well, it was when I was there anyway, and it doesn't feel half as hot. Well, it feels hot, but nothing like being in Illinois when the humidity is 100% and you're literally just drowning in sweat. Yeah. Well, yeah. This video is probably going to get banned from YouTube, by the way, because of what I've said tonight. But there you go. I've said it, and I've been wanting to say it. And there's, things you have to say, aren't there? There's just things you have to say. I don't like bottling things up inside. Um, and I think most of you know from a few comments I've made on my channel many a time when I look up in the skies and see the con contrails, not the contrails, and I make comments about things like the HS2 rail link, which is never going to happen, just tearing up the landscape, and it's probably never ever going to be finished, and things like this. Yeah, do you know why I say these things? Because I love the countryside. I love being out in the countryside, and I don't want it being ruined by idiots in a government that haven't got a flipping clue what they're talking about. It's all about virtual signaling, just like all the gender rubbish and all that. I saw a thing today. There's 367 different genders. No, it's not. There's two, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. 367 different genders. Where do they come up with these ridiculous numbers from? As far as I'm concerned, there's two, and I'm not going to start on that one because I really don't care what you call yourself, but there's still only male and female. There's still only X and Y chromosomes. Yes, you would, Willie, but it doesn't, does it? It's the same as it is every year. I am a patriot, and I'm actually not just a patriot from the UK. I'm a patriot from the US as well. I lived there for 15 years, and actually, I'm a patriot for the world. I want everybody in the world to understand that you got to stand up for yourself. The governments around the world have been taken over. They're being infiltrated by people from like the WEF and the WHO to push this narrative to make us all broke and believe in what they're telling you. The next one they're going to try and bring in, of course, is the digital currency. That's what they want to do. They don't want us having things like this. They don't want you having in your pocket. I still spend this as often as I can. I've been in the pub tonight. All I ever use is cash. Never use my debit card. I don't have a credit card. I do actually also realise, of course, that is not even it's not paper these days. It's some polymer they use in the UK to print the notes on, but it's not even worth the polymer it's printed on. It's a fiat currency, and fiat currencies are basically worthless. Do you know, back in the day, it states on there somewhere, I think, I promised to pay the bearer £20. Well, originally back in the day when it said I promised to pay the bearer £1 or whatever, because inflation and all that sort of thing, there's £1 of silver. That should be I promised to pay the bearer if in exchange £20 of silver. Well, we know it's a fiat currency these days, and there's no way you could go to the bank and say, "Can I have £20 of silver, please?" They'd laugh at you and throw you out the door. But that's why it was always linked to originally. Currency was linked to silver. Some were linked to gold. Some the US currency was more linked to gold, but when they bought this fiat currency out here originally, it was linked to silver. I know the dollar originally was linked to gold and silver. In the UK, I think it was only linked to silver, although we had gold coins, of course, like the gold sovereign and things like that. If you've got a gold sovereign today, don't try and buy a sovereign's worth of food out of it. It's worth, I don't know, £2,300 or whatever it is. Something like that. But yeah, anyway, so yeah. It's not worth the paper it's printed on, but fortunately still you can actually get something for it, I've got a few beers for a £20 note will still buy me 5 beers in the pub. Well done, Willie. Yeah, they're fancy, aren't they? Obviously, people were trying to forge these things for years, and when it was paper, they were actually doing quite a good job. But these things now, I think, are actually quite hard to forge. You see through there, you actually see through this bit here. Look, it's actually transparent. This still has the Queen on, of course. I don't know if they've actually see that bit there is transparent. I don't think they've still printed any paper money. Well, it's not paper, as I say. It's a polymer with the King's head on it, with King Charles, and I think there's a reason behind that. I think they want to go to a digital currency. I don't think they want to do that. I believe there are a set of coins that have come out now with the King's head on, but they haven't seemed to have changed over the paper money or the plastic money, as whatever you want to call it. But yeah. Anyways, I guess before I say too much, and I probably should wind this up soon. I know this is going to be demonetized. I can't see YouTube even. I might even get a strike for this for this video. But sometimes one has to say what one thinks, don't they? And you don't have to agree with me. If you don't agree with me, fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if you don't agree with me, just do a bit of research. don't get caught out. That's what I say. Just don't get caught out by what's going on in the world. You know, I've got a few things I've got now. Now, over in the US, of course, owning weapons is quite easy to do. I have recently purchased an air rifle because if I have to find my own food, I need something to shoot it with. And an air rifle I can purchase over here without over in America, of course, it's a FOI card. Over here, you have to have a gun license or whatever. Air rifle, you don't have to, as long as it's under a certain amount of power. But the air rifle I just purchased, it's one of the most powerful air rifles you can actually buy in the UK legally. It's a PCP air rifle, which means it's a pre-charged pneumatic. So once it's charged up, it's got a little tank underneath the barrel, which holds the compressed air. It fires a pellet and just it's bolt action, reload. It's got a 10 pellet magazine it holds, so I can fire 10 pellets, no trouble at all. It'll actually fire about 60 or 70 pellets before you need to recharge it, before the charge starts dropping down too low to actually have a kill shot if you're going to shoot a rabbit or a pigeon or whatever, you know what I mean, to feed yourself. Because I think there might come to the day I might need to do that, because I'm not going to eat bugs. I certainly don't want Bill Gates blimmin' 3D printed steaks, and I don't want Bill Gates bug farms where he's buying up all the farms and putting bug farms in there to make bug burgers. I don't want it. I'll stick with fresh food, real food. And on that note, I think I should probably close this up. But, thank you, Willie. Do you know what? I'll keep that in mind. Although I'm not sure. Well, there was a time I couldn't get back in the US because I didn't have the medical intervention. But I think I probably can again now. I think I probably actually get back in there. But there was a long period of time I couldn't come into the US, back to the US, because I didn't have holes in my arms. Well, Martin, ferrets, yes. I had ferrets as a kid, by the way. Well, I didn't actually have them. I guess dad and my uncle had them, but I went out ferreting with them as a kid. Yeah, I know all about ferreting. I don't have a problem with ferreting. I don't have a problem killing to survive and eat. I don't kill for the sake of it. I'm not going to go out there and start shooting at animals just because I can. If it comes to it, I need to do it to eat, I will. And I think that's a big difference. And yes, I am pure blood and happy. And I'm really, really glad these days I didn't, because of all the stuff that's going on at the moment. I saw, I don't know how true it is, but I saw it was on YouTube, so I don't know how true it was, but it's from quite a reputable person that was saying that now the amount of excess deaths since 2020, when the so-called pandemic was at its worst, in the last 3 years, the excess deaths are 6 times greater than the amount of people that died in 2020. I don't know how true that is. I haven't checked it out, but it's just something I read or heard earlier on this afternoon. Yeah, so this is probably more deadly than catching the flu. And I'll tell you what, if you want to stay healthy, make sure you get plenty of vitamin D and vitamin C. The vitamin D is what keeps everybody healthy. It fights off just about every virus there is. Loads of vitamin D. In the summer, you get it from your sunlight, and in the winter months, especially in the northern hemisphere where I am here in England, make sure you take supplements every day. Keep your vitamin D level up, because as long as you keep your vitamin D level up, you may feel ill still, but you'll never ever be critical. It will keep you healthy, even if you catch the so-called lurgy. Yeah, well, we had chickens when I grew up as a kid. Yeah, when I grew up as a kid, we had chickens in the back garden. We never kept. Well, I had a pet rabbit, but that wasn't for food. But we kept chickens in the back garden. Um, Eggs and I remember as a kid, I was probably about 9 or 10 years old, dispatching a chicken for the Sunday lunch. When I grew up, when I was a bit older, when we moved from that house, we didn't have chickens when we moved to our next house, but was on a fairly large piece of land. We lived on the land of the manor house, and I used to go down the fields and shoot rabbits and pigeons and bring back for the pot. It was what you did, you know. I know how to skin and gut a rabbit. I know how to pluck a pheasant. I know how to pluck a duck or whatever. They were the way of life back then. You know, I'm going back 50 years ago, a bit more even. Well, yeah, I started shooting for the pot when I was probably about 12. When I had my first air rifle and access to a 410. Yeah, shoot for the pot. Many a rabbit I've shot for the pot. It was the way of life. You know, it supplemented your income, didn't it? Or it supplemented your food income, I meant, not the financial income. Um, it's just was the way of life, wasn't it? You know, I was brought up in the countryside, and that's what you did. We never had them in the house. There was always in a pen out in the backyard. Actually, when we had chickens, I guess our backyard or back garden was I don't know 100 yards long, and the chickens were at the back fence in a pen, had a hutch and everything. I'd go up there in the morning and get the eggs, and I think we had about a dozen chickens at the time. Yeah, I understand where people, you know, especially if you had them running around in your garden, and you know, and you, as you say, neck them, broke their necks, obviously, and then they're in the oven cooking. I can understand people getting upset over that if they don't realise they're for food. I was brought up knowing that the chickens were for food, and if I went and shot a rabbit, I knew it was for food. Didn't shoot for fun. Didn't kill for some, just a trophy hunter or anything like that. Everything I shot was for food. And I think as long as you can understand it's a way of life you need to eat, you know, if you think it's any different than going into a supermarket and buying a couple of pre-packet, I don't know, steaks or whatever, is any different than shooting a rabbit, it's probably more humane when I shot the rabbit, it's dead instantly, than going into a abattoir and being scared to death as it goes in there, and before it gets electric probes put in it and killed, because that rabbit never saw it coming. So it's probably more humane than actually supermarket meat. But it's not going to stop me also buying supermarket meat. Yeah, it did become sport, and when it becomes sport, I think it become a problem. I don't shoot for sport. I shoot for the pot only. Yeah, it is. It is a conservative life. Um, it's going back to nature, isn't it? It's totally going back to nature. It's going back to the way things were not much more than 100 years ago, really. Back in the 1800s, people grew, actually, even up to, actually, probably even up to the Second World War, people had rabbits and chickens and everything in their back gardens. or kept doves and pigeons. A lot of them were from the pot. People don't realise this. It's not that long ago. People were providing food for themselves, grown vegetables in their back garden or backyard or whatever you want to call it. It was a way of life. And I don't have a problem going back to that if I have to. No, I really don't. I've only, I haven't say I bought an air rifle a couple of months ago now, and the only time I've shot it is at targets at the moment. Number one, getting it sighted in and making sure it's sighted in perfectly. It's got telescopic sights, obviously. Well, not obviously, but it has. And I was getting it sighted in, and I wanted to make sure, and it's got a pair of what do you call bipods, so you can sit it down and get it nice and stable when you're sighting it in. When you put 10 pellets one after the other into the ball, you've got it sighted in. You know what I mean? So that's how I've got it at the moment. And it hasn't been used since I sighted it in. It's hanging up in my back cabin in a gun bag out there, and I don't keep the magazine with the gun just in case someone broke on the boat and tried to shoot me with it, because I wouldn't want to be shot with an air rifle. People think, oh, it's just an air rifle. No, it's not. Put a hole through 3/4 inch ply. It's not just an air rifle. Okay, it is just an air rifle, but people don't realize how powerful they are these days and what damage they can do. I used to shoot rabbits with an air rifle anyway, and this is years ago. And my air rifle back in those days was nowhere near as powerful as this one. So yeah. Also have a crossbow, by the way. That's more for a bit of fun occasionally, shooting a few targets. It's a pistol grip one. You just break it out, put a 6.5-inch bolt in it or whatever. I'll tell you what, you won't want to catch that either. It's got an 80-pound pull, and it also put a hole through 3/4 inch ply at 25 yards. So you wouldn't want to be messing with that either. But yeah, actually, here's one for you. I still don't know how to pronounce your name. Iam's Toki War Tooth. I actually ate coyote. I was in Maine, and there was a festival going on over there, and this truck there had coyote stew or whatever he called it, and I tried it. It's meat. I don't know what dog tastes like, so I can't tell you if it tastes like dog. But it wasn't that bad. It tasted quite okay to me. Yeah, I'll show you it. I'm not going to get the air rifle out. There's all in the bag and everything. There's my crossbow. It's got one sat in here, but it's not loaded. Takes a 6 1/4, whatever, a 6.5-inch bolt. I just see one sitting in there, so I'm not going to break it, but literally to break it, you push that down and you pull that back, and you can see it. It pulls the string back there. It's got an 80-pound pull. I'm not going to load it, because if you load it, obviously you've got to fire it. You can't just discharge it, and you should never fire a crossbow without a bolt in it, because it can damage the string the way it whips back. But yeah, that's my little crossbow. And I tell you what, it's only got iron sights, as you can see the sight there and the sight there. But I tell you what, I can shoot that as accurate as I'm still at the ball on a target. as one of my target sheets. At 25 yards, I can put definitely within the 9 and normally hit the 10 with the crossbow. With the air rifle, every pellet goes in the 10. And that's what, inch across, perhaps the 10 is, at 25 yards. Yes. Yeah, the range on this really is a short range weapon. Especially this is a pistol crossbow. But at 25 yards, it's absolutely deadly. At 50 yards, you're probably going to miss. But yeah, but up to 25 yards, you certainly wouldn't want to try and catch it in the air. Okay, um, it would it put a it put a big hole in anything. Um, it's a great little toy for me. It's a lovely little toy to play around with and shooting it targets on a board or on a tree. Yeah. Well, I lived in Illinois, as a lot of people know, for 15 years, and all my friends hunted. And I ate a lot of venison when I was in Illinois. Um, I think it's whitetail. I think the whitetail was it deer there in Illinois. I think it is. We have roe deer, red deer, and muntjac deer mainly here in the UK. But I think it's whitetail in the US and around that area. If I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I think it was whitetail. And a couple of friends of mine, Richard, for one of them, went out hunting all the time. They'd go out hunting, and I they didn't like the front legs. They said there was a waste of time. They just used to throw them away. So I said, I'll have them. So I started getting the front legs off them, and I'd literally put them in a casserole and put them in the oven, like real slow cook for about 5 or 6 hours with some onions and garlic and herbs and carrots and whatever in there, and a bottle of red wine, and cook it for I don't know 5 or 6 hours, as I say. Then I'd take it out and I'd let it cool down a bit. Take all the meat off the bones, break it up, take all the gravy that's left. A boat just gone by. It's 9 o'clock at 9:15 at night, and the boat's just gone by. Well, it's almost dark. Anyway, sorry, I was distracted there when the boat went by. And then take all the juices, blend it down in the blender, and then I'd make a crust, and I'd fill it all up there, put the meat in the pie, and then a crust over the top, and bake it again as a venison pie. Well, I made one of these. I made it in a huge. I think it was a lasagna dish. I cooked one in once. I took it down to a local bar that I knew very well. Donna, who owned the bar, and I took it down there one day and chumped it up into sort of squares, and people were trying it. Nobody would believe me that it was venison. They all thought it was beef. I said, no, it's venison. Many people told me they didn't like venison, but loved my pie. But yeah, it was about this, well, probably about this thick. It was just full of meat. It was absolutely gorgeous. But there you go. Well, that boat could have found lots of moorings. There's lots of moorings behind me. There's probably just come past about at least 8 or 9 moorings behind me, spaces. I'm moored literally 100 yards from the lock, so I'm guessing he's going to go up that lock. And where he's going to go from there, I've no idea. Perhaps he's going to go down to the tunnel and wait to go through the tunnel in the morning. Hare Castle Tunnel's just around the corner. Perhaps he's going to do that, or go up onto the macrospheres and moor up. I don't know. But there's no moorings in front of me. There's only moorings behind me. If he moors in front of me, he's on the locked landing, which he shouldn't do. But I've seen people do it, and then they go off early in the morning. But no, whatever. I'm not going to say anything. I've never hunted with a bow. I must admit, I've never hunted with a bow. I've never hunted anything more than rabbits or something like that, really, or pigeons. I've never hunted deer. I've shot a hare. I did hare once. Duck, a few ducks. But duck shooting was with a 12 bore, not with a gun. And the odd pheasant with the 12 bore, when they're flying. But yeah, not big into shotguns. I used to shoot. Well, I used to shoot a shotgun quite regular, but that was clays or whatever. I much like to be more stealth with the air rifle or something like that. I just something to eat. Whole oats in your stews. Yeah. I've never put oats in a stew, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. I'm normally just lots of vegetables and potatoes and that sort of thing. I'm not a big dumpling fan, so I don't even put dumplings normally in my stews. I love duck too, by the way, Martin. I've actually got some duck breasts in the freezer, but I bought those in the supermarket. I didn't shoot the ducks. I happened to be in the supermarket the other day in the reduced aisle, and they had 2 packets of duck breasts in there, reduced 60% off. So I just bought them and threw them straight in the freezer. I will probably have them this week or next week, or one of them anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I've never put oats in anything. I don't like oatmeal, so I don't even have oats on the boat. But I don't see why it wouldn't work as a thickener, definitely. As a starch in there to thicken it, it would work. I'm assuming they expand anyway and soak up moisture, wouldn't they? So there's got to be a thickener. But yeah, I'm just not. I just don't particularly eat oats, so I don't eat many grains. By the way, I'm not a grain person. I'm not particularly a bread person. I'm not a pasta person or a potato person. I don't really eat a lot of carbohydrates. I'm not a big fan. I drink a lot of carbohydrates, but I don't eat them. I had opossum. I've never had beaver. Um, I didn't like opossum. Um, yeah, greasy. Didn't like the flavour particularly. Uh, and another one I didn't like when I was in the US was turtle. Didn't like turtle. I thought it tasted like the pond that it had come out of. I tried squirrel. I squirrel a couple of times over there. Quite like squirrels. I didn't have a problem with squirrel. I tried a few different things. Some of my local friends like trying to catch me out on things that they thought I wouldn't eat, so they'd bring weird things in for me to try, if you know what I mean. And I'd try them all. I would try them all. Pheasant. I don't have a problem cooking pheasant. I tell you that you're going to cook pheasant, oven roasted. Um, if it's got enough fat on it, you're okay. If not, cover it in streaky bacon before you throw it in the oven, and don't overcook it. Cook it until it's just about cooked, and let the residue heat and it cook it out. Otherwise, it goes dry. But streaky bacon helps to stop that. But pheasant, I like pheasant. Grouse do the same. Grouse actually is not so bad. Bison, well, bison is absolutely brilliant. That's better than beefsteak. I've had bison a few times. I had bison when I was over in Massachusetts. I had bison a few times. Over here, there's when I was down on the South Oxford Canal, I had water buffalo steaks. That's pretty good as well. I'll try anything. I'll try anything once. If I don't like it, I don't buy it again or don't try it again. But there's not much I don't eat. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of bread. I don't eat a lot of bread. Not a big fan of any carbohydrates, particularly. Not a big fan of potatoes. Not a big fan of rice. Not a big fan of pasta. I'm definitely not a big fan of pasta. I very rarely ever eat pasta. I eat rice occasionally. I eat bread for toast occasionally. Um, I eat potatoes if I'm throwing them as stew or as chips, or as you call them in the US, fries. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I've been rambling away here now for nearly an hour and a half, and they bred bison just outside Cole went on. Oh, okay. But yeah, I would bison burgers are great, by the way. Had those a few times in the US. A lot of places do bison burgers, or as they call them over there, some places would call them buffalo burgers, but bison is the correct term. Um, it's like buffalo wings. You know what I mean? Never seen a buffalo with wings yet. You know what I mean? I know why they're called buffalo wings, because it originates from Buffalo, New York, when what was it, the shipping or the anchoring? Anchoring, isn't it, in Buffalo? Um, but like a chili sauce over buffalo, over wings, and that's why they became known as buffalo wings, as the story goes. Yeah, I'm going to make a move, guys. Elk. Well, I've tried elk many a time. I've had moose. I've had, well, what I call it, reindeer. If you're over in Scandinavia, or where what's it? What's it also called? I can't think now. But it's the same thing as is it elk? No, not elk. Whatever it is, anyway, it's called different things. Same thing. Yeah, spot on, Willie. But yeah, it's that's buffalo sauce, it's hot sauce and butter mixed together. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna make a move. I'm gonna go and get something to eat. Actually, I haven't eaten since 12 o'clock, and it's now 9:30 here nearly. I'm gonna get a bit peckish. I've had a few beers, and I now need something to soak up the beer. So anyway, it's great talking to you guys. Um, I hope 1,000 people didn't unsubscribe from me because what I want to say. I was going to talk a little bit about politics as well, but I decided to keep that one away at the moment. Perhaps I'll do that another time, you know. But that is too controversial, I think, to talk about on here. But anyway, guys, absolutely great being here again, doing a live chat. There is a cruising video on this Saturday. I've already done the cruising video for the Saturday after. I just didn't have any Wednesday videos in. That's why I thought I'd come in with a live stream tonight and be a bit controversial, but hopefully not too controversial. And I don't mind if you disagree with what I said, by the way. That's entirely up to you. But all I can say is if you disagree with what I said, please go and check out some of the things I've said, because I'm pretty much on the money. I've been called a conspiracy theorist most of my life, but just about 99% of everything I've ever said has come true. I'm not a prophet. I just do a lot of research before I say anything. So anyway, of course, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. 55 gallons of them, 3/4 fill of water for a month before butchering them. Wash ash and a bovine meat. Yeah, I don't know much about cooking turtle. I had it in a restaurant when I was trying to think where I was at the moment. I think I was no, I'm not sure. I was down south. I can't remember what state I was in. This is when I was driving down through. Probably Alabama. It's probably down in Alabama when I had turtle. I didn't like it, but I might have had a bad night, bad deal. Oh, definitely leave comments, guys. You know, I'm always up to the comments, and I thank everybody that's liked it because that really helps anyway. Um, yeah, so I guess I better end this video like I always do. Uh, thank you very much for watching. Trevor out.